Now, the Coalition's controversial bathroom bill has returned to the public consciousness in recent days and weeks, reigniting a pre-election debate. Back in September 2023, during the TVNZ Young Voters debate, NZ First candidate for Hutt South, Lee Donoghue, left the women around him looking absolutely dumbfounded as he was grilled on a rather simple belief. Males should use men's toilets. Females should use women's toilets. And anyone not complying with these expectations should rightly be held accountable. Unfortunately for Lee, and seemingly the country, if I'm concerned, the ladies were not at all impressed.
From actually participating now into sports.
Though, on the topic of public bathrooms,
yes.
Where is your evidence?
There's studies all over. We have people basically saying to us, hey, I was assaulted in a bathroom by a biological male. This is wrong. And, you know, you have biological men getting changed in women's spaces, and it's scaring women. But it's a true thing. It's a real thing. We're not on another planet. There are a lot of people concerned with this, not just in New Zealand, all over the world. And we want to stand up for women. We want to stand up for women's spaces. We want to make sure everyone's safe.
With your bathroom policy, particularly at schools, how are you going to enforce it? Are you going to get teachers to, do genital checks at the door, or...?
What a stupid question. No, I think...
Then
how? That's ridiculous. And, you know, making a mockery out of this and women's spaces is just uncalled for. And the pendulum's gone so far to the radical left, you think this is normal. This is not normal. All we're doing is sticking up for women.
If you want a new law, how are you going to enforce it? In schools?
Look, bathrooms are already unisex, male and female, right? We're just going to say, hey, we're not going to accept this.
Now, I'm not surprised at all that the clearly biased debate moderator by the name of Anna Harcourt, who has also worked on behalf of Renews, which is part of the One News TVNZ type ordeal. But Renews is what I would call a heavily left-leaning young voters propaganda outlet, or news propaganda outlet. And anyway, she's involved with that. She was moderating this, I should say, or rather, technically chiming in on the debate, given she was so outraged at the suggestion that a man should go to a men's room and a woman should go to a women's room. But hey, what are you going to do? But anyways, I'm not surprised that she only managed to summon an inherently flawed question, which infers the proposed policy is completely ridiculous and unenforceable. Admittedly, it was quite effective, given that her target audience of this particular debate are, prone to confirming their own biases by grasping onto whatever narrative suits it. And it doesn't matter how flimsy it is. They just want to be affirmed in whatever it is they believe in, however they identify, for example. Now, the Fair Access to Bathrooms Bill, which is guaranteed support by National ACT and New Zealand First being the ones who drafted it, has guaranteed support through to the select committee stage, at which point it's kind of up in the air what's going to happen. I strongly suspect that at the very least National is not going to see it through to either the second or third reading because they've gone woke. National, as far as I'm concerned, are going to be no better than Labour when it comes to this issue, although they have at least made some steps with respect to their rhetoric around RSE education in the schooling system and making sure that we address that and keep it very, very basic and not go into a bunch of shit we don't need to. That being said, I don't see them supporting this, and I certainly don't see ACT supporting this given, the ACT party is basically a libertarian's dream because they're right on the economic scale but really left on the social scale. And as far as libertarians are concerned, as long as you can put up with some right-wing policy, beautiful, absolutely lovely. And I think that's why they're probably a little bit more appealing to young voters than the likes of New Zealand First, because young voters are typically more liberal, they're typically more libertarian. I myself, I've got elements of libertarian that I subscribe to, but hey, what are you going to do? I don't subscribe to ACT because I think that, drag queens reading to children is, quite frankly, not my cup of tea, and I don't think it should happen. Now, do I have an issue with clowns reading to children? No, because clowns aren't there reading in a sexualized manner or reading about things inherently related to sexuality and identity of which these children cannot even begin to comprehend. Although they can be successfully indoctrinated in that process, but I'm kind of in a state of digress right now. Now, The bill would introduce a monetary penalty under the Summary Offences Act for breaching this policy. I think that's more than reasonable. Hey, look, you've gone into the wrong toilet for whatever reason. Maybe it's because you're wearing a wig. Maybe it's because you think you have a cock when you don't. Maybe you do have one and you shouldn't be in there because you do. Anyways, you get a fine. Whoop-de-doo. Deal with it. Instead of getting a fine, maybe you should go get some surgery. I don't know. I think Bangkok does some decent surgeries every now and then. Nonetheless, it not only introduces this monetary penalty for breaching the rules, but it also says that new public bathroom facilities would also need to accommodate a unisex option. So really, this means you've got no excuse for breaching that penalty. You've got no excuse for getting that penalty, I should say, because there is going to be a unisex option in all new or in all places where it's possible. And so when you're building a new public building, for example, new public facility, it's, you work around that with that in mind, of course. So you have the unisex option. And this is contrary, funny enough, to the reports from the press. That's what they're called, the press. I think they're also called the Post. I'm not quite sure what the differentiation is or who specifically owns it. But the press titled their story, "Winston Peters Wants to Ban Unisex Bathrooms." It's almost like they've never read the policy, given that unisex bathrooms being mandated in every new build related to public facilities. I mean, come on. This is simple stuff. If you call yourself a journalist, you can't even get things that simple correct. When I saw that, I was like, how is this not being taken down yet? And I'm not even sure, as of recording this, that it has been taken down yet. I mean, it's a blatant lie in the headline. A complete lie. It completely misrepresents the policy to mean the opposite of what it actually is, which, as far as I'm concerned, is extremely concerning. And it probably just goes to show that the media has no shame. They've got no interest in telling the truth, only sharing whatever it is that floats their boat. Now, the purpose of the bill really shouldn't be a partisan issue. I mean, it's 2024. Why is it so hard to acknowledge that women are women and men are men? Look at me. Would you think for a second that I'm a woman? Some might. I know some like to call me a bitch on occasion. But I'm neither a dog nor a woman, so it makes it, or female, I should really say. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. Of course, it is disconcerting that during the election campaign, our now Prime Minister labelled this policy on another planet, and that kind of alludes to why I don't think National will follow through after the first reading and after the select committee stage. Oddly, this is something he has in common with the LGBTQ plus charity Inside Out. Inside Out, by the way, work in our schools indoctrinating our children with the relationships and sexual education guideline nonsense. And as far as I'm concerned, they exist for the sole purpose of indoctrinating Kiwi kids with gender ideology. And if you've seen that app, The Birds and the Bees, or whatever it's called, or Beyond the Birds and Bees, which I did a couple of videos on my YouTube channel going into that, if you want to have a look at those as well, that really goes into what the birds and the bees are, Beyond the Birds and the Bees are, and it is disgusting. The fact that this app, which is intended for people 12 plus, is readily available, encouraged for kids without parental supervision to read, is, well, exactly why the likes of Inside Out are a problem. Anyways, Inside Out's managing director, Tabby Besley, has labelled the policy ridiculous and an attack on transgender people. It seems that having the option of a unisex bathroom to accommodate someone who doesn't necessarily view themselves the way others do is an attack, rather than a solution to the issue. Tabby Besley also stated, "We need to be supporting them to feel safer in New Zealand, not threatening blatantly discriminatory legislation and arrests for people using public facilities. Something as simple as being able to pee. It's something everyone should be able to do freely. I agree. I think we should all be able to go pee freely. Now, as a man, I can pee behind a bush. I can pee in a bush. I've done a couple of things in a bush. But, I can go pee next to the tree over there like a dog. I can also pee in the men's room and in the unisex toilets. What I can't do is freely use the women's toilet to pee, as it should be, because that makes them uncomfortable. And I don't know about you, any other men, sometimes when you walk into a bathroom that a woman's just used, sometimes it just doesn't smell right. Maybe it's just the scent of men's urine that really makes us feel comfortable. I wouldn't actually know. But, yeah, you get my point. there is absolutely no justification for a male, someone born male, because you're only born one way or the other. Some people are born intersex, and that's a little bit more complex. Nonetheless, that's such a minority, it's not even funny. But that aside, you've got no excuse for not using a toilet which is appropriate for you to use. In this case, if you're a man, use the men's room.